In northern Kenya's Samburu County, speaking out against female genital mutilation can get you killed. In 1990, Rebecca Lolosoli spoke out anyway, and was beaten nearly to death for it. What she built next was something the region had never seen: a village run entirely by women, where men are completely banned. Umoja, unity. But building a men-free society inside one of Africa's most patriarchal regions would demand far more than courage. While recovering in a hospital bed, Rebecca Lolosoli envisioned a sanctuary where no man could ever harm another woman. She reached out to 14 other survivors, women who had endured sexual assault or fled the brutality of forced child marriages. In a culture where a woman's value was tied strictly to her husband, leaving meant complete social exile. Yet in late 1990, these 15 founders claimed a dry, neglected patch of government land near the Iwaso-Nyiro River. They had nothing but each other, arriving with no resources to build a life in this arid, unforgiving environment. They named their new settlement Umoja, the Swahili word for unity, marking a collective determination to rebuild their lives. It was a radical departure from traditional Samburu society, where women possessed no customary rights to land or livestock, and were historically treated as property. This small settlement became Africa's first and remains its best documented women-only village. Rather than a project led by a single hero, Umoja was forged from its first day as a cooperative act of sheer survival. Adult men are entirely barred from residing in Umoja. This rule serves as a practical shield against physical violence rather than a symbolic gesture of independence. The women who travel to this community are running from immediate physical dangers in the surrounding region. They are survivors escaping forced child marriages, domestic abuse, rape, and female genital mutilation. In traditional Samburu culture, a woman who leaves her husband or rejects an arranged marriage is stripped of her children and cast out. Many arrive at the village gates without money, shelter, or any safe family to receive them. For these women, the physical exclusion of adult men is a necessary condition for survival. The thorn fence surrounding the settlement marks the boundary where the dangers of the outside world are forced to stop. Inside this perimeter, the women find a collective safety guaranteed by their own shared rules and vigilance. The restriction provides the secure environment they need to heal, govern themselves, and begin the work of rebuilding their lives from nothing. The physical foundation of Umoja began with the heavy manual labor of building permanent homes. The women gathered local timber to erect circular frames, weaving branches together to form the walls. To seal these structures against the arid heat, they mixed cow dung with water and applied the waterproof plaster, layer by layer, with their bare hands. This construction was entirely cooperative. No individual owned a home. Every hut was built through shared, communal effort. As news of this sanctuary spread, the settlement expanded to accommodate a steady influx of survivors. What started as a small circle of mud huts grew into a structured village, eventually housing more than 40 women and around 200 children. By raising their own shelter from the ground up, the women transformed Umoja from a temporary refuge into a permanent, self-sustaining community. Survival in Umoja required more than shelter. It demanded immediate economic self-reliance. The women turned to a traditional craft passed down through generations: intricate Samburu beadwork. They handcraft vibrant glass bead necklaces, bracelets, and earrings, selling them directly to safari travelers visiting the nearby Samburu National Reserve. To bypass local middlemen, the cooperative established a tourist campsite 1 kilometer away and launched an online fair trade store, Umoja Jewelry. This ensures that 100% of the craft revenue returns directly to the artisans. This independent economy allowed the residents to transition from displaced survivors to self-sufficient business owners. Collective financial autonomy is governed by a structured system of collective rule. Every household elects a representative to the Napoo, the village's monthly parliament. The Napoo functions as the institutional heart of Umoja, where the women debate and vote on security, resource distribution, and community rules. Even critical decisions, such as admitting male visitors or managing medical emergencies, require a democratic vote. While Rebecca Lolosoli acts as the public spokesperson and representative of the village, her authority remains nested within this collective structure. Inside the Napoo, leadership is cooperative, ensuring that the ultimate power always rests in the hands of the community. Around 98 children run through the dusty center of Umoja, carrying the future of this sanctuary in their education. The village established its own primary school, a community-run academy, offering the national curriculum alongside traditional songs and sports. The classroom does not operate in isolation. It opens its doors to both village children and boys and girls from neighboring families outside the thorn perimeter. But as these children grow, a strict boundary awaits the young boys. While they are raised collectively by the village mothers, reaching the age of 18 changes their status. At 18, under village rules, a boy is legally an adult, and adult men are barred from permanent residence. The Napoo Council issues a formal notice, and sons must pack their belongings to seek a life outside the only home they have ever known. This rule carries a heavy emotional weight for mothers who sought sanctuary here to protect their families. Young men who grew up in Umoja may return to visit and sleep in the village to see their mothers, but they can never again reside here permanently. Protecting the sanctuary requires a firm boundary, even when it cuts through the hearts of the women who built it. Outside the secure perimeter, the land itself became a battleground. Men from neighboring Samburu villages repeatedly tried to dismantle Umoja, using both physical intimidation and legal challenges to reclaim the territory. In 2014, attackers set fire to the protective thorn fence, forcing the residents to establish night watches, beating metal drums to sound alarms and ward off intruders. The struggle extended into the Kenyan legal system, where local men argued that customary laws barred women from holding property. This dispute ended in 2015 when the High Court of Kenya ruled in favor of the women's group, permanently upholding their official title deed. By defending their borders in court, the cooperative proved that survival depended on more than courage. It required the legal authority to hold their ground. The influence of Umoja did not stop at its own perimeter. Over 3 decades, the sanctuary became a model for women across East Africa, demonstrating that self-determination was achievable. In nearby districts, other women established cooperative settlements like Nachami and Supalaki, adopting Umoja's practices of collective security and shared governance. Rebecca Lolosoli's early work sparked a quiet regional movement, changing what marginalized women believed they could build. While systemic violence and economic inequality persist across these pastoral communities, Umoja's legacy is no longer defined by survival alone, but by the villages rising in its image. Today, Umoja stands as living proof that self-determination can outlive isolation. By rewriting their own rules, these women created more than a sanctuary. They built a blueprint for independence. True safety is not just about surviving, it is about the freedom to thrive. Subscribe to explore more stories of quiet resilience.